Hi, I'm Mika Frankl. Welcome to Cage Minds MMA Show. I'd appreciate it if you visit the website I got going on, cageminds.com, YouTube channel, Cage Minds MMA Show. Keep up with us on the social media. It's Cage Minds Combat Sports News over on Facebook. Instagram, it's at CageMinds_CSN. On Twitter, it's at CageMinds MMA. Also got a couple podcasts going on with Mr. Michael Carlisle on the After Hours Podcast Network. That's MMA After Hours and Pro Wrestling After Hours. So a lot of media going up, a lot of stuff to keep up with, and not to mention you can pick up merchandise from Cage Minds. That's available over at nmproshop.com. Last week, I hope you guys all enjoyed a great meal and some good quality family time. Us locally, there was some action. Fight World 20. I'm going to have a video going up recapping that event. Not to mention results article already up on the website. With no national fights last weekend, first on deck is this week's fight announcements. We'll start off with the UFC. Anthony Hernandez is out, and Dustin Stuffoltz will now be facing Kyle Barella. That's on the UFC Fight Night, December 18th. That's a middleweight matchup. The first UFC Fight Night of the new year on January 15th will be headlined by a top 10 featherweight matchup. Number 5, Calvin Kattar versus number 8, Giga Chikadze. My gosh, is that one going to be amazing? Two phenomenal strikers. The fight night on February 5th has gained a pivotal welterweight matchup. Unbeaten Shakan Rakhmonov will take on Carlton Harris. And then headlining the UFC Fight Night on February 26th. Most likely a lightweight number 1 contenders bout. Beneil Dariush Islam Makhachev. That's number 3 against number 5 in the world. That same card has gained Jinyu Fry versus Hannah Goldy in a women's strawweight bout. And also in lightweight action, Armin Tasharian against Joel Alvarez. Not to mention, on March 5th, we're going to see in featherweight action Edson Barbosa, Bryce Mitchell. That's a top 15 matchup. Great striker versus grappler contest there. Now we get back to live action this week, starting off with Friday morning's one championship event, Winter Warriors. You have lightweight kickboxing world championship main event. The reigning champion Reagan Ursel defending against Islam Murtazanov. That one is going to be spectacular. Co-main event, you have your women's atomweight Grand Prix final stomp Fairtex, the former one kickboxing and Muay Thai world champion, against phenomenal Indian wrestler Ritu Phogat. Not to mention, you have lightweight Timothy Matyushenko and heavyweight jiu-jitsu phenomenal practitioner Marcos Buchela also on the card. Then Friday night, Bellator 272. It's back there at the Mohegan Sun Arena, and this one is headlined by a bantamweight world title fight. You got the champ Sergio Pettis defending against the former champion Koji Haraguchi. If you'll remember, Haraguchi relinquishing the title after his knee injury. Let the division keep going. Pettis, a 4-fight win streak in May, won the title, dethroning Juan Archuleta. Superb striking, his wrestling has come together. We know about his longtime roots there at Rufus Sport under Duke Rufus. Haraguchi, the Japanese fighter, the former Bellator, former Ryzen champion, returned a year ago from that horrendous knee injury, avenging his loss to Kai Asakura, and he regained the Ryzen title. Now here in Bellator, looking to get back his other belt. For real, Haraguchi, possibly pound for pound, skill for skill, the most talented fighter on the Bellator roster. I would say that Maybe you're having an argument from AJ McKee, but that would really be it at this point. That's how spectacular Horiguchi is, how technically solid he is. I think that Horiguchi has put together such a resume while getting to the title that it's going to be hard to dethrone from Pettis. Pettis, as we said, a 4-fight win streak, but I think this is going to be a definite tougher task, even though it comes in with the belt. We're looking at a phenomenal striking matchup. Horiguchi has submitted phenomenal wrestlers, outstruck world-class kickboxers. The winner of this fight definitely has a claim to be the best 135-pounder in the world. Pettis is a guy that has had the spotlight of critics and media on him his entire MMA career. Since being amateur under the RFA banner, everyone knew him as Anthony's little brother. Horiguchi came over to America, to the UFC, with the pressure of the entire Japanese people on his shoulder. Went all the way to the echelon of challenging Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, and when he was unsuccessful there, returned home, has advanced his skills to several levels higher than what they were previous. Conquered Ryzen, has conquered Bellator, and now is back to do it one more time. My gosh, this is a great main event. The co-main event is phenomenal. In the featherweight division, longtime Bellator staple Emmanuel Sanchez taking on Canadian Jeremy Kennedy, a UFC PFL vet who's doing pretty good for himself, getting himself substantialed here and set up in Bellator. The one that I'm really excited for on the main card, that's not the main event, because there has to be one more spectacular fight besides the main event. I think it's in the middleweight division. You got unbeaten Johnny Eblen versus Colin Huckbody. 5-0 in Bellator, 4 decision wins for Eblen. Huckbody has 5 head and arm choke victories of his 9, 6 wins by submission overall, coming off of winning the Art of Scrap middleweight title. The middleweight division is a division where you can advance quickly. Eblen already ranked. This is one of those fights that is going to be a showcase fight on that main card, putting him, 2-3 away from a world title fight if he can get a victory here. Also, not to mention that main card, or not to forget on that main card, the Canadian Josh Hill, 20-4, a PFL title challenger, a WSOF former title challenger, a Ultimate Fighter 18 veteran who's won 4 of his last 5, taking on Jared Scoggins, a 5-fight win streak. Expect the same kind of long karate style that you see out of his brother. On the undercard, couple delightful entrees there. You have Alexander Chablis, 20-3, 5-fight win streak, taking on Bobby King, 10-3, a 4-fight win streak. We saw King beat Nick Newell and Steven Seiler. Alexander coming over from Russia with a lot of hype on him. Also on that card, you can see a couple UFC vets. You got Kai Kamaka III and Spike Carlisle. Carlisle jumping in on short notice to take on Dan Moret. Moret coming off of the win over Koichi Haraguchi. So if Carlisle pulls off the upset, you're talking about taking out a guy in the Bellator rankings. For Moret, that's 2 wins in a row. A third one. This lightweight division is wide open in Bellator. It would be good to make a statement. Also Friday night in Arizona in the Valley of the Sun, you have LFA 118, a pair of championship contests. On top of that one, the vacant middleweight title is on the line as unbeaten Jasaveria, the current LFA light heavyweight champion. He looks to become the second 2-division champion in the promotion's history, looking to join Casey Kenny. He'll take on Jared Revel. The Canadian is 11-2. Saveria comes in 100% finishing rate, 3 wins by rear naked choke, 2 head kicks. The guy has been blowing people's expectations, which were high as could be, out of the water so far. I mean, when you're the son of one of the founders of American Top Team, that already set the expectations at a high level. Saveria, wow, he's been ultra impressive. Revel, not to give all the love to Saveria, Revel 6-fight win streak, 3 submissions in that time, and his last win comes over well-seasoned Brazilian UFC vet Sergio Moraes. We know that Moraes, an incredible jiu-jitsu game, an awkward guy to handle on the feet, did fight though at 170, but is a high caliber quality victory there for the Canadian. The co-main event, 135-pound vacant titles on the line, is you have Richard Palencia, 9-0, 3-0 in Bellator, taking on Alan Bagoso. Bagoso, 6-0-1. He has 2 wins by guillotine, a heel hook, and 2 knockouts. This one is going to be phenomenal. Palencia training out of the MMA lab. Also on that LFA 119 main card, the one that's not a title fight that we need to pay attention to in the flyweight division, beating Clayton Carpenter, wins by head kick, knee bar, and rear naked choke. Also coming out of the MMA lab, he's taking on Hawaiian striker Rodney Kialohi, an incredible Muay Thai practitioner. The dude has incredible jumping knees, is a hard hitter. So it's LFA 119 and Bellator 272, both on Friday night, and that's preceding your early morning one championship. A weekend without fights, they're back in a big way, and not going to cover them, but UFC Fight Pass also has on Friday Lion Fight 72, Battlefield Fight League 70, then Bundo Cento Volume 5, and on Saturday night, don't forget, there's Fury Pro Grappling 3. Those are all on UFC Fight Pass. Now, what we are going to get into is the UFC Fight Night, UFC Vegas 44, UFC Fight Night, Font versus Aldo. For everybody that had been used to those early UFC Fight Night cards, we're coming to the end of college football season. No big boxing card. What I'm telling you is this Fight Night, the main card is actually starting at night. I mentioned it. It's a big bantamweight matchup in the main event. Number 4, Rob Font versus number 5, Jose Aldo. Font, a 19-4 record, 8 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. Aldo, 30-7, the former featherweight champion of the world, one of the greatest featherweights of all time, has 17 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. Now, real quick, the storyline heading into this fight. Font is the rising contender, looking to put himself into contention. Really right there to put himself in the mix. We're going to talk about his recent wins, but he has put together the resume and beat champions, and beat guys that have belts right now, to put himself in a prime position to say, hey, when am I fighting for the title? Jose Aldo, he's a legend that keeps revitalizing himself. You think he's done for after the 2 losses to Max Holloway. He's dropped to 135, a so-so performance, not looking great against Peter Yan. The last 2, though, we're going to get to, and he's really revitalized himself here at 135 pounds. Now, what is on the line? I really do believe, because of the injury situation at 135 pounds, that if Rob Font puts on a ridiculously impressive enough performance, if he is able to tickle the fancy of the right people at the UFC level, tickle the brass a little bit there, he will be able to put himself as the number 1 contender. I think that you could see Rob Font, Peter Yan, depending on how this fight plays out. That is saying that the knee injury of TJ Dillashaw, I believe he is on the mend. He is closer, it seems, than Aljamain Sterling to being ready, but Aljamain Sterling is actively grappling. So I could see maybe a Dillashaw-Sterling impasse. That would be the best thing for the division. Not trying to knock Rob Font at all, but you'd want one of those big names, one of those top 3 guys, to be able to challenge the interim champion, maybe that unified title fight, the rematch. But what could possibly be on the line if their health situations do not progress in a favorable manner is Rob Font fighting for the title. Much less likely if you're Jose Aldo. Aldo fought and lost to Yan. But you can take all that hype from Rob Font, and if you're Jose Aldo, you put yourself right back in the mix, harassing a possibly healthy TJ Dillashaw into, man, why don't you run it with me instead of waiting for Sterling and Yan to unify the titles. It leads to a lot of interesting circumstances. Now, as we get down to the statistics, Font is an inch taller, has an inch and a half in the arms, Aldo has an inch and a half in the legs. Font's on a 4-fight win streak, 3 of those wins, the 3 big names. Current Bellator bantamweight champion, bantamweights we're talking about, Sergio Pettis, Marlon Moraes, and Cody Garbrandt. Decision wins over all 3, knocking Cody Garbrandt, who was one time the star and the face of the division, looking to be a face of the company. He's knocked Cody all the way down to 125 pounds. Aldo, those 2 impressive decision wins to get himself back in the mix, coming over Pedro Munoz and Marlon Vera. Look at the performance he put on to rebound and knock out Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar and Jose Aldo, 2 guys that will be connected, 2 guys that were oh so similar, had such close fights, but really now at 135 pounds have went in totally different ways. Aldo, who was a murdering power puncher, a knockout artist and finisher at 145 pounds, has been a much more elusive, volume punching, boxing and hunter of the takedowns than he was at 145 pounds. Will he break out the leg kicks? That's what people keep wondering. Well, Rob Font is probably not going to be the opponent to do it, because when Font took on Moraes, he was able to land huge counters and pick Moraes off when Moraes went to hammer the legs. It seemed like a good idea. Take away the legs of a puncher. Did not work because the puncher was landing first. Font landed 176 strikes in his most recent win over Cody Garbrandt, but has struggled against John Lineker, Pedro Munoz, and Rafael Assunção. Some of that was to do with getting taken down and being put on his back, and a good bit of that was to do with facing a power puncher counter striker. Could Aldo replicate some of those same techniques that hampered Rob Font? Possibly, but at 135 pounds, Aldo himself has even been more of a volume striker. In his last fight, the win over Pedro Munoz, we saw a career high 114 landed strikes from Jose Aldo, a guy that made his living in 5-round fights, landed a career high in his most recent one. The cut to 135 pounds, well, we've seen possibly a deeper gas tank to Jose Aldo, not more, but a deeper gas tank to Jose Aldo. I think we have seen something taken off of that fastball. Both guys are incredible strikers that concentrate on their defense. Both defend 61% of the strikes that come at them, and both land at around 44% clip. Font, though, bit more active. 5.2 strikes landed per minute, while Aldo is at 3.4. Font, 40% takedown accuracy, 53% takedown defense, while Aldo, 56% takedown accuracy, 91% takedown defense. You cannot take down Jose Aldo. This one should be exciting. I come in, as the bettors do, a small favorite for Rob Font. Font has been on a bigger roll. This is his weight class. He is the younger fighter. He has had the trajectory going up, while Aldo has made key adjustments throughout his career. Kickers have not done well against Rob Font. Jose Aldo doesn't return enough fire also, as Font is the more active party here. Aldo, a slight underdog at plus 125. Font, your minus 145 favorite. The co-main event is in the lightweight division. It's a top 15 matchup. You have number 12, Rafael Fiziev, coming in at 10-1, 6 wins by knockout. While his opponent, the number 14 ranked Brad Riddell, comes in at 10-1, 5 wins by knockout. Fiziev, an inch and a half taller, with about a half inch in the legs and a half inch in the arm, so they're basically pretty even. Fiziev, a 4-fight win streak, while Riddell, 7-fight win streak, 4-0 in the UFC. Fiziev lands 5.34 strikes per minute, while Riddell lands 4.75. Well, Fiziev is absorbing 5.7 to Riddell's only 3.1. If the numbers continue to go as they are, it's Fiziev, even though he has this incredible lean back defense with his Muay Thai, he absorbs too many strikes flush, and you'll see Riddell be able to wear him down. Incredible high-level striker still. Brad Riddell, former K1 kickboxer. Rafael Fiziev, the Muay Thai coach for Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand. This one's going to be incredible back and forth. The betting odds say it is tight as could be. Fizie's your minus 120 favorite, while your plus 100 underdog is Brad Riddell. I'm thinking that the Australian Riddell pulls off the victory here. He's the more active fighter. Also on the main card in lightweight action, you have Clay Guida versus Leonardo Santos. We both know those two veterans going to be incredibly exciting. Guida, his boxing and wrestling, but he has a 10 to wane in the latter stages of the fight, where Santos, he's a slow starter. He has a flair for the dramatic. He was the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach for Jose Aldo and has been known to pack a pretty good amount of power in his punches. Also on that main card, light heavyweights, who are ranked number 13, Jim Crute, 12-2, taking on number 14, Jamal Hill, 8-1. Crute, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off of an L to Anthony Smith. At this point, he's fought the higher level of competition. He does have his last 3 wins in the first round, 8 overall. Crute comes out to get it done quickly. Hill, half his wins by knockout, did have everybody thinking he was on his way to the top after knocking out OSP. The former title challenger had nothing for Hill on that night, but Hill is looking to rebound after, we all remember, the disgusting dislocated arm that forced the tap against Paul Craig. So there's something to be said for getting Rock stuck in the submission, but the arm injury, a lot of intrigue there. 2 of the top prospects at 205. Somebody emerges looking a lot better after this one. Your biggest betting favorite on the card comes in the middleweight main card opener. Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis. Allen 14-7, 5 knockouts, 9 submissions. Curtis 27 wins, 8 losses, 15 knockouts. Allen has won 9 of 10, while Curtis is on a 6-fight win streak with 5 wins by knockout, including the one that we saw recently over Curtis Hawes. Allen can be found anywhere from minus 340 to 365 coming into this one. It is something to note that for most of his career, Curtis was a welterweight on the regional scene, even held the CES MMA title. On the prelims, a couple things to feature there. In the flyweight division, you got 2 guys that came in with a lot of hype. We're talking about Zuglamalov, who came in from Kazakhstan with a lot of hype, taking on Manel Camp, the former Ryzen champion. Both had rough starts to their UFC careers. Zuglamalov, a tight guillotine in his last fight, his first career submission victory. Will Manel Camp with the flying knee knockout of Ode Osborne. Both guys got back on the right track. Somebody unfortunately goes down the wrong path after this one. In the welterweight division, Jake Matthews, he's won 3 of his last 4. He's going to be taking on Jeremiah Wells. Wells, a spectacular debut knockout win for the former CFFC welterweight champion. Matthews has had his ups and downs. Wells on the win streak. This is his opportunity to jump right into the mix in the division. Matthews has to do something special here to keep himself relevant at 170. Light heavyweights, surefire knockout on tap as William Knight, 10-2, 9 wins by knockout, takes on Alonzo Menefield, 11-2, 8 wins by knockout. And early on the card, you got at welterweight Mickey Gall, 7-3, taking on the 20-7 Alex Morono. Gall has had some huge names and big fights so far. CM Punk, Phil Brooks, not to mention Diego Sanchez. Alex Morono, he's coming off of the TKO of Donald Cerrone and a decision win over David Zawada, now looking to hand another L to Gall. Gall submitted Jordan Williams the last time we saw him. Both guys started off their MMA careers as grapplers and worked to develop their striking skills. For Morono, it's going to be about using his awkward angles, looping punches to get on the inside. For Gall, he's going to want to keep this one long or try to be on top. It's UFC Fight Night, and my gosh, like I said, the two fights at the top of the card. When you look at Brad Riddell versus Rafael Fiziev, that is going to be one of the most spectacular striking matchups that the UFC could put together. Outside of Cater versus Jacate, which we get next year, but that one in the co-main event. Ultra high level Muay Thai fighter versus ultra high level kickboxer, and in the main event, Font versus Aldo, the rising prospect against the former legend who's still doing it at the highest levels. So much intrigue. Again, keep up with everything at cageminds.com. Look for the podcast, MMA After Hours and Pro Wrestling After Hours, and pick up some merchandise at nmproshop.com.